Once again, we'd like to thank you for joining us to Unapologetically Black Male, where we're surviving the stigma, standards, and system. This is a podcast meant to highlight African American men and their stories to success, to where they reach their in their profession and in their life. I want to thank my co-host, Brother EJ Stewart. Also, we want to thank our sponsor, J. Pope and Associates, for helping us to kind of launch this effort. And if you are in the Baltimore area and you are in need of therapeutic services, whether individual or couples therapy, feel free to reach out to us and we'll connect you with that. We have a guest. We have a brother by the name of Stanley, and what I'm going to do is I'm gonna turn it over to him. And let him tell you a little bit about himself, his story, about about who he is and what he does and how he got to where he is now.
Peace, family. Thanks for having me. I appreciate y'all. So a little bit about me. Name Stan Robinson, stage name Substantial. I've been working in the music industry. I want to say over 20 years now, 20 plus years. I've been working in education about the same amount of time. I'm an MC, producer, educator. Recently became an author. My story is I'm originally from Prince George's County, Maryland. I reside in Northern Virginia now. Not really, I can at least see, I can see my old neighbor, well, my old neighborhood, but I can see where I'm from or whatever from my balcony. So I'm never too far away. You know what I mean? But yeah, man. I had a long story, so I'm gonna stop it there, keep it brief, and then we jump into it.
I mean, tell us a little bit about your story, like how you got to being, MC, educator. Give us a little history behind that.
Sure. Yeah, sure, man. So like a lot of folks, I've loved hip hop since I could remember, right? Like since I was a kid. And when I say I love hip hop, a lot of people say that and they really just mean rap music, right? That they love rap music. Like
Gotcha.
I love hip hop. And so
Okay.
what I mean by that is like I love all the elements of hip hop. Before I ever wanted to rap, I was breaking, you know what I mean? Like elementary school age, trying to do head spins on the stage, right? That's one of the elements of hip hop, right? I was doing graph artists, almost got put out my mama house because I was really out here doing graffiti on walls. I used to DJ a little bit, still can DJ, even though that's not my bread and butter like that. And then of course there's MCing, but then the fifth element that a lot of times people forget about, but it's very much ties into my educated part is knowledge, right? Like it's MCing, DJing, breaking, graph, and then knowledge, right? So like I feel like over the years, man, I met so many hip hop heads who are educators, right? And it's kind of whether they realize it or not, subconsciously they are practicing more than the one element, right? They're more than just the MC because they're educated. They practicing that other element of knowledge. So yeah, man. So hip hop has just kind of always been a part of my life, and that before I was cool for doing it. You know what I mean? I would get clowned for being super into it because of that time that we came up with, and I say we because I'm looking at y'all, look like we about the same age group. So like that time we came up in, man, like hip hop wasn't at least down in the PG side of things, and I got family in Baltimore, so I was always back and forth. But on the PG side of things, because we so close to DC, it was all about go-go. So like rap was cool, but like trust, if a go-go band had a cover, you know what I mean, of a popular rap song, then most of my hood was playing the cover, you know what I'm saying, more than the actual song. So it wasn't as cool to be a rapper back then, especially if your style was more kind of East Coast than it was West Coast, and then eventually like Southern. And when I say Southern, I ain't talking about Atlanta, I'm talking about like Houston, because PG County, DC love Scarface, dog. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you be hard pressed to find 10 dudes from my area that doesn't have Scarface in their top 5. So like,
Mm.
so the type of hip hop I was doing wasn't necessarily, wasn't necessarily making me the cool kid automatically. You know what I mean? Dudes used to clown and be like, oh, this thing he from New York. You know what I mean? So, um, but yeah, man, like, so hip hop though, I feel like hip hop's always been a part of my life. And now that I can look back with like, just a sharper mind, I can see how education was very much a part of my path this entire time, and I just didn't realize it. And that's because I went to a visual performing high school. Shout out to Suitland High School, Center of the Visual Performing Arts. And while I was there, man, I had opportunities to volunteer after school and stuff, and give tours and for people who were interested in the program. They would send me to middle schools to speak on behalf of the school to convince youngins to try to get into the program. So I was very much kind of mentoring and trying to guide the younger generation or whatever, the youngins coming up after me. And then when I got to New York, I was at Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York. And while I was performing up there, man, the type of venues I was at, whether it was poetry spots or like just these underground hip hop joints, man, they were always teachers in the crowd, always teachers in the crowd. And they were always asking me to come through. Like, they were like, yo, you different. Come through, talk to these babies, man. Like, cause they think hip hop is just this one thing, or like rappers just talk about this. And especially when I started touring and seeing the world and getting these crazy opportunities, like people were like, we just trying to show the kids that like there's different paths in this hip hop thing, in this rap music thing, right? And so I just found myself at all these schools speaking. And then some administrators were like, man, the way you command the crowd, the way you engage these kids, man, I think you got a future in education if you want one. And so that led to me developing programming and stuff. And I got dubbed like the hip hop teacher. Local paper, it wrote about some of the programming I was doing with these babies. Yeah, man, the rest kind of history. You know what I mean? It's, I'm trying to condense it as much as possible.
I got you.
Tell us about what that looks like now, like as far as your work in education now, and the things that you are doing now, and how that's been, that journey of being the hip hop teacher, the trials and tribulations.
Yeah, for sure. Great question. So like now what it looks like is I've kind of shifted from teaching the craft, right? Like from teaching like how to rhyme, how to MC, or how to make beats, right? And at one point I was even teaching graph, as well, graffiti. And now it's more so like I solely teach the business now, right? Like I teach music business classes. And that was a choice I made just a few years ago. Like wasn't even too long ago. Like I want to say 2019, I decided I was only going to teach that side of it because, as somebody who's a bit long in the tooth at this point and working with youngins, there's certain things aesthetically that like may appeal more to them, that because I've lived through so much in this, in hip hop culture and seen all of the different things, like when I say something negative about an artist they like, they think I'm some old curmudgeon dude that just don't like what they don't like. And the funny thing is, unlike a lot of older guys, I can run down some like 20-year-old rappers who are super nice. I can run down to them a couple who were like teenagers who were super nice. And so it's just there's certain things that I feel like if you're gonna call yourself an MC or a rapper, you know what I mean? Like there's just a certain bar. And so rather than debating those things, the one thing that I really started to pay attention to is, I would teach youngins how to do this, but then ultimately, a lot of them would do it for kicks, or like not all of them would kind of really see how far I could take them, right? It was just kind of like something that they did for fun for a brief period of time. And that's cool. There were lessons that they could get out of that. But I'm really like, I'm looking at all of this stuff that I'm teaching, whether it's that, any of these elements, whether I was, at Oxon Hill working as support staff, no matter what I'm there to do, my goal is to give them options to kind of help them change their whole situation if they want. And I really felt like after a while I wasn't, I was giving them something that they might have enjoyed and had fun with, but I didn't feel like I was fully giving them the tools they needed to be successful. And being that I've been successful at carving my own lane, and even though I'm not like a household name or celebrity or anything, look, man, I'm a black man in this country with a family of 4, and this is all I do. You know what I mean? So like, if that ain't success, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm about as free as a person of color can be in this country, right? And so like, so I look at that and I'm like, yo, what are the tools that I've gained that have put me in this position? And let me focus on teaching those things. So my wife and I started this company, Substantial Art and Music, where we were consulting and helping a lot of our peers and other people in the industry. And they were seeing a lot of success. And I applied some of those same things I learned to my career and saw even more success later in my career. So now that's what I teach. I teach digital distribution classes at Omega School in Rockville, Maryland. I teach dynamic promotion classes. For indie artists, I teach folks about what's it called? How to gain passive income as a creative. And I'm teaching these music business classes with Words, Beats, and Life. I just had a meeting with them today. So yeah, man, I'm very much tunnel vision right now. I'm just like, hey, here's how you make money doing this, control your own destiny, and not get raped by these labels, right? Like, here's how to move through this space in a way where if your goal is to be a working creative and be able to work on your own terms, I can help you. Now, if you're trying to be a pop star, you need to go see somebody else. But I can show you how to make a living doing this and be all right,
Got you. Now, I like how you kind of went on and defined your own, I guess, definition of success. Because many times we can get caught in the hype of trying to live up to society's expectations, even though they are not that high for us as African American men, or just expectations that we see. So kind of making that self reflection and self determination of what success looks like for you. And you said, listen, this is success for me. I'm able to kind of impact the individuals that I've been in contact with, and continue to do that. And like you said, you're about as free as any man in America, and you're doing what you want and what you love. So I think that's very pivotal for us as African American men to kind of have that sort of self reflection and define what success looks like for us, not for what society says, because it's going to be different for each one of us. And especially as we grow and learn to kind of find our purpose and our way in this life.
For sure. Definitely.
What made you, I mean, because I never really thought about that part of your experience being from PG, DC area, and looking at hip hop, because, I was born and raised in New York. So, I can go outside and see LL Cool J get in his car or Chuck D outside, so that was just always there for me, but being in PG County and making that reference, go-go is God, you know what I mean? So what was it about hip hop that you knew was for you, and no matter what, I'm sticking to this thing?
Yeah, man. It was kind of a culmination of all of the things I loved. I loved music, right? I love dancing. I love rapping. I love how these dudes put together their work. Like, it's funny, man, when I listen to battle rap and then I listen to the homies around the way, like, people call it different things in different regions. Some people call it snapping. Some people call it the dozens, all of that. But in PG, it's Jonin, right? And so rapping, especially battle rap, was kind of an extension of that. And it didn't matter if you had the worst clothes, you were the poorest dude in the block. Like, dog, if you had jokes, if you were great at Jonin, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was like, man, it was like having a gun. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, don't mess with old man, because he fry your ass. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know if we can curse. I'm sorry.
You good?
But like, those type of things, man. Like, so when I listen to rappers, like anybody who's just slick with the words, man, and it's not that stuff wasn't present in Go-Go. It was just that when I would hear it in Go-Go, a lot of times it was coming from rap songs. Like when I would hear the dopest lyrical stuff, it was all oftentimes referencing rap songs. So when I find the original and then listen to more of their stuff, I was more interested in that because I was already playing around with poetry at a very young age in elementary. You know, man, like, and before I got good at it, you know, I'm taking like Anita Baker lyrics, writing them joints down and slipping them to girls in class. You know what I mean? Like I was very intrigued with lyrics and their power very, very young. So hip hop just had all of these different things, man. Especially graph art, because I was serious about my art at a very young age, and before I figured out how to monetize music, I figured out how to monetize art like really young. I'm talking about like second, third grade, man. I was already getting kids to pay me for drawings and stuff. People paying me to do their clothes, like, you know, when that was a whole thing, painting on jeans and all of that. You know, I figured out how to make money. You know, I mean, because everybody in the neighborhood wanted to be like the hustlers. I just didn't want to get shot. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I wanted all the things they had, but I didn't want, you know, it's like, it was always confusing me. Like, wait, so let me get this straight. We don't like the cops, but we know when we do these things, the cops come through. What can I do? What can I do that's going to keep these bammers off of me? You know what I'm saying? So, so like the art and other little hustles when I grew out of toys, selling them joints, man. Like I had like 30, 40 G.I. Joe, man, bro. Them joints was gone in a week. Just was getting rid of everything. So I was just always, I always had a hustle. And so, you know, man, yeah, I just, yeah, it's very, yeah, it was really interesting being there. And the other thing is too, with hip hop down here, we had like, you know, we had like there was Question Mark Asylum. So seeing them start to break nationwide, you know, that would give you hope. And then seeing somebody like Nonchalant, you know what I mean, do her thing. And the one thing is like, even though we didn't have these big hip hop acts, all the big hip hop acts knew they had to come through DC on tour. Like this region was very influential in terms of helping break big records nationally. Like if a record didn't do well, there was some information. Matter of fact, I was just at a Grammy meeting a few weeks ago, and one of the things they were talking about this region is how like they were able to determine if an urban record would really take off based on how well it would do in our region. Not New York, not LA, not Detroit. Like if it did well here, they knew it would do well, especially because DC was Chocolate City. So back then at least. So like, yeah, man, this region had a lot of influence, even though we didn't have the big artists. So yeah, man, it's just, I found hip hop. I hung on to it. You know what I'm saying? And try not to piss people off too much when I told them I like hip hop more than I like go-go, because that was like blasphemy down this joint. But yeah, man.
Now, as far as like your career, as far as rapping, like how you know, how has that been? And I know, I mean, I think in talking with you before, I kind of know, like you mentioned like the whole Japan scene. It's kind of getting in tune with that. Can you tell us a little bit about that and
Sure.
how you got over there and got your name kind of, you know, growing over there as well?
Yeah. So basically, you know, when I left PG, I got the chance to go to Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York. And, you know, the thing that excited me about going to New York was like, I knew I could push my art and I knew I could push my music simultaneously because of what New York was like. And my auntie was scared to death of me. She was like, why would you go there? You go there, you're going to get like lost in the mix, which was crazy because that's the same thing my counselor said when I wanted to go to Suitland High School, because Suitland was such a big school. It was like 2,000 kids. They were like, why would you want to go there? You're going to get lost in the mix. And my thinking was, it's like, yo, if I can go there and make people take notice, considering how saturated the scene is, it's like, yo, that says something about my skill level, right? So when I got to Brooklyn, most of the people I knew was into the poetry scene. So I was hanging at spots like the Brooklyn Tea Party. Shout out to Ian Friday and all of the dope people who come through there, from Saul Williams to Jessica Caremore, just these amazing poets. And then I had people who were challenging me there too, who were just talking about like they loved me as a battle rapper, but felt like my more personal songs weren't as lyrically like interesting or clever. So like they were really challenging me to be and get my pen, get my pen game stronger. So anyway, I'm sharpening my skills. One of my homies, his cousin is DJ Enough, and he was like, "Yo, you dope. I should play some of your stuff for my cousin." And you know how that go. Everybody got a family member who knows somebody in the industry or whatever. So I ain't think much of it. He put him on the phone and he's like, "Yo, what up? This is Enough." And I'm like, "Whoa, I got like 3 of this dude's mixtapes." You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, "Oh, he wasn't joking." So I spit something for him on the phone. And he was impressed. And he was like, "Yo, get me a demo ASAP." You know what I mean? I got this situation with Def Jam. He was A&R'ing over at Def Jam at the time. So me being a perfectionist, I took too long to make it. I try to get it over to him, and then his cousin got back and was just like, "Dog, you took too long, man. He just put on Lady Luck." And so I'm like, but I got this demo. So out the blue, I get this call because I was friends with a dude at school named Tomo, who was from Japan. And he took a mixtape that I was featured on to Japan with him when he went home. And he was working at a record store out there that was owned by a brother named Nujabes. And the record store was called Guinness Records. And so little known to me, Nujabes also owned his own record label, a small indie label in Japan called Hideout Productions. And so he was playing, my man was playing the mixtape in the store because Nujabes was like, "Yo, you know any dope rappers in New York?" And keep in mind, I'm not even from New York. And there's a lot of dope rappers in New York, but my man played me. He played me for him, and Nujabes heard me, and he was like, "Yo, this guy's amazing, man." He's like, "Can you put me in touch?" So man, he links us up. I almost hung up on dude because I heard the accent. I thought it was one of my homies being a clown. Yeah, like straight up. I was, I never spoke to anybody who was from Japan, like, you know what I mean? So I didn't recognize the accent, so I thought it was a game. And so, but luckily I didn't. And he basically was like, "Man, I love what I heard. If you could send me more stuff, he's like, man, I'll offer you a record contract with the label. I'll fly you out to Japan. You can record a whole album with me, like we can work something out." Luckily I had that demo. So I shipped that demo, put that in the mail. Like I couldn't upload it to Dropbox.
In the mail.
I put the cassette in the mail, sent it to him. And then he hit me back and was like, "Man, this is dope. Can you send me the lyrics?" So and keep in mind, I didn't even email him the lyrics. I literally typed them up, printed them out, put them in an envelope, sent him the lyrics so he could understand what I was talking about. And he was blown away, man. So he offered me a contract. And it was crazy because the contract he offered at the time, like I had been offered record contracts like at least every other year from the time I was 15. So like and multiple times a year. So I had been offered like 3 major label opportunities or like small imprint opportunities from the time I was 15 until I was 19. So yeah, man, he sent me the contract, and the biggest difference was like pay wise, I was seeing like maybe percentage wise, I was seeing like maybe 3 to 5 times more than what someone would get in a major label situation. So I was like, damn, I can sell like 4 or 5 times less the records, but make the same money. So that was interesting to me. That was early game for me. I was like, yo, this indie thing ain't too bad. Like, I kind of, everyone won't know who I am, but I can be walking around here borderline anonymous and still be making the same money as someone who you see all the time. And so that was really, it was interesting. So anyway, man, I took the opportunity to go to Japan. I showed up, I had $33.32 in my pocket. Like I was broke. I was a college kid, so I ain't had no money. And luckily, as quick as I got there, they cut me an advance check. And I was out there a month, man, like rapping as a job, like 4 to 5 times a week, 10 to 12 hours of studio a day. Come out, eat, go back, spit, write, you know what I mean? And yeah, the rest from there is kind of history. But just to kind of some context with Nujabes, because even though most people don't know who he is, he became really popular because of a TV show called Samurai Champloo that used to come on Cartoon Network, because he did the opening song and several songs in the soundtrack. So that like was after we had worked on that first album together. And so basically the album I did with him saw a lot of success, but his legend and career just kind of skyrocketed a bit after that happened. And then unfortunately he died in 2010. And so like that just kind of pushed him into another hemisphere in terms of how people saw him. And you know how that goes when people pass away, especially if they were pretty dope. So and he gets compared to Dilla a lot too, because him and Jay Dilla were born the same day in the same year. So he's like looked at as kind of like the Japanese Dilla. But so yeah, man, that whole situation in Japan just led to a lot, you know what I mean? And you know, I've toured the world and been to like 20 countries or something like that, you know what I mean, since then, you know.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, that's definitely dope.
Thank you, man.
I thought it was dope the first time I heard. I was like, man, I don't know too many brothers over in Japan. And then you was like, you were rapping. I was like, yo, because you don't hear that side of the game. You hear, oh, you know, you got to get to a certain stuff. You got to, you know, have the cars and all that. But nah, you can still be good and
right.
and not have all that stuff. So for me, that was definitely, you know, a highlight from when I talked to you before.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, what was that? What was that reception like over there when you were there? Like, you know, with the language barrier, and if there was at all any language barrier, like what was the reception like?
Yeah, man, it was crazy, man, because you know, the first time I went, folks didn't know who I was yet, right? But you know, skill, man, the skill speaks for itself. You know what I mean? Like he would put me in these opportunities where I could showcase my skill. Like we just kind of we'd work all day in the studio, and then he had a DJ gig somewhere. And then in the middle of his set, he just throw on a couple of beats from the project we were working on and just be like, yo, just go in. And so we tested out, and these people didn't know who I was, but they was like, oh, oh God, okay. And so even though there was a language barrier, you know, a lot of times it's feeling. So I've had this crazy voice, like this deep voice and stuff from a very young age, like 14, 15 years old, my voice changed and people was like, yo, you know what I mean? Like, you know, people always thought I sounded a lot like my dad and his voice was crazy. So between that and then the punchlines and then, you know, like these flows that I would kind of go into from time to time, people just could kind of tell, like they, you know, because they knew dope hip hop, you know what I mean? Like I'd be talking about certain joints, I'd be in interviews and, you know, chopping it up about Common, and they knew who he was. I could talk about Cameron, and they was like, yeah, no, Cameron. Then they run down a couple songs. I'm like, oh, all right. You know what I'm saying? Like they knew their hip hop. So their hip hop music, they knew it well. So it was crazy. Like, man, like you go out there, record stores in Tokyo was like bodegas in New York. You know what I mean? Like,
everywhere.
Yeah, yo. It's Japan, like Tokyo, Shibuya in Tokyo has like used to be in the Guinness Book of World Records, I think still is, for the largest concentration of record stores in the world. You know what I mean? So
Wow.
yeah, so they know music. So to get that reception when they didn't know who I was, it got me excited. And then about a year and a half later, when it was time to go back and tour for that record, I want to say like a couple weeks before I left to go on my first tour ever, my homeboy Rock One, shout out to him, he had just got back from Japan. He was like, dog, you supposed to get ready to go out there, right? And I was like, yeah. He's like, bro, you're everywhere. I was like, what does that even mean? He was like, dog, I went shoe shopping. Your poster was on the door. I went in the record store. Dog, you had a whole display. I went somewhere else. They were playing your record. Like, he was like, dog, like you're everywhere out this joint right now. So have fun, because this is about to be crazy. And so when I showed up, man, and I was performing a song of mine called Home Sweet Home, which was like the most popular song from the record. And it's a song I wrote about Maryland while I was in Japan, just, you know, missing home, especially because at that point I had been living in New York for a couple of years. So I was really homesick. I miss Brooklyn, but I miss Maryland even more. Like, I could go for some chicken wings and mambo right now. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man. And so to see that song become like my most popular solo song but like not in Maryland, but in Tokyo, that was just crazy. So I go perform and I'm just looking at people who barely speak English, like run back lyrics about Maryland to me. That was dog, like that. Yeah, that was insane. But yeah, man, the love was crazy, and so the and the stories I would hear, man, songs I wrote about my wife. I'd be at a show, kicking it out front of the club or whatever afterwards, and somebody come up like, in broken English, just saying like, when I got married, like my wife came out to the song you wrote about your wife.
Damn.
Like that was crazy. I was like, yo, I'm Luther in Japan. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like mama, I made it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, stuff like that, man. And it's crazy. So in the beginning, it was like a large concentration of success, mainly in that region. So now to see it over time spread, and now like I can do shows in the States, in certain cities, and it feels like Japan back in the day. You know what I mean? Just seeing these people who know this largely unknown artist, but like can quote me verbatim, dog, and like, see people with your lyrics tattooed on them, and yeah, it's it's different. You know what I mean?
That's surreal, man. I definitely hope you getting your flowers coming from the PG area, with the success of some of the guys you got now, thinking if you could have had that access and support and opportunities they had, who knows, you know what I mean? So I definitely hope they know their history.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
So I know you mentioned a little bit about the you become an author now. I saw that. So can you share a little bit about that, and what's the kind of premise behind kind of this project and everything about it?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, man. So the condensed version of the story goes: I was in the car with the missus, listening to a mix of one of the songs for a project, and the song was called it's called "In My Daughter's Eyes," and this was a sequel of a song that was also called "In My Daughter's Eyes," but the only difference in the title was I moved the apostrophe because I had a second daughter, and so and my wife was listening to it. She was like, "Yo, this could be a children's book." And I just look at her sideways. It's like, "Hey, yo, you're a genius." Like, and I play the song again, and I'm listening because on the second version of the song, like the first version is very wordy. Like it's a great message, but like I'm hitting people with a lot. Like, yo, this is a lot I want you to think about. I know this is heavy, but this is some real, but the second version, I was like, yo, I wanted especially because I had a younger daughter now. Like my oldest daughter's 12, my youngest daughter's 3. So I was like, I want to simplify the approach a bit more to give it more room to breathe and make it a little more catchier. But more importantly, I want this song that has this great message to be something that like is more infectious and gets in people's heads. So anyway, she was like, yo, you should make it a book. And so we talk about it some more. And it was crazy because I had just met this dope illustrator out in Detroit when I was doing a convention out there. And so I showed her stuff to my wife, and she was like, yo, she'd be a good look. And there was another illustrator that I knew. I showed both. One is the one in Detroit, name is Luna. She goes by Luna Bunny. And then one in New York, she go by Katie Fox. And so we felt like Luna Bunny stuff was more kid friendly. So we were like, since it's a children's book, let's go that direction. Katie Fox can do that stuff too. But we were starting to already talk about another way we could collab. So I'm like, yo, we gonna do something anyway. So let me do this other thing with her. And it was dope because both of them Black women. I was like, yeah, it's a win either way. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the people. So anyway, we reached out to her. She wasn't fully sure if she could handle it just yet because she had never done a book before. But we were just pressing her like, yo, we believe in you, son. We think you can do it. You know what I'm saying? Look, we're gonna pay you. We're gonna pay you well. Let's do this. You know what I mean? And so we took some time to tighten up the manuscript, get everything together, write the description for the book, do some research, figure out how much everything would cost, talk to a couple homies who were writers themselves, talk to some people who knew publishers. And we did all our research, and then we circled back, and we were like, "Yo, so what's up? You trying to draw this book or not?" And so, and she came around, was like, "Oh, I'm ready now." So we got the contract together, and and we still pitched it to a few places. No one got back, And the dope thing was, it's like I've built this network over the years where I knew, I was like, man, whether a company ride with us or not, like, you know, our network, a couple thousand people, you know what I mean? We can move a decent amount of books, you know what I mean? And so yeah, so we decided to do it ourselves, and it dropped early June, and I decided to also release an album with it. So the book is called She Sees, and it's based off the song In My Daughter's Eyes. And then I released an album called The Soundtrack for Fatherhood, which is a compilation of all of the different songs I've done over the years about being a father. And then I wrote a couple of new joints on there, as well as a song called Dedicated and Driven, which breaks down into dad. And so, yeah, bro. And the feedback, like the feedback for the book has been crazy. Like people literally have hit us up in tears, like, you know, moved like heavily by the book. Like I knew people would appreciate it, but I ain't know it was going to be, I ain't know it was going to be all that, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, man, like our daughter's former babysitter, our oldest daughter, we just sent her a copy for her daycare. And like, man, like just speaking to her, bro, like, man, I was tearing up. I was like, all right. Yo, like, cause you know, just it's having a profound effect. Like people love seeing, people love seeing us, especially when you feel like you're not reflected, you know what I mean, all the time. And then like, folks being able to see a family as well, like, and there's nothing wrong with coming from a broken family, because I come from a broken family, but to see a family that's not broken, right, in the way that we've been told, like families in our communities are always broken that way, right? And because the opening page, it says she sees love, she sees trust. When she thinks about both, she sees us. That's the first few pages. And so yeah, man, we just wanted to put our story out there in hopes that it can move some other people. And yeah, bro, like, yeah, Black, white, Latino, like Asian, like all types of people been hitting us up about it, man. And it's, but it's really dope. It's really dope to see. And then our family it's not, how it go, man. Like when if you a rapper or something like that, you go to push something, not everybody gonna support. You know what I mean? He might be your cousin, but he don't really rock with you for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, man, I ain't trying to hear that you even rapping about. You know what I'm saying? But this book, what I'm seeing is just like it's seeing a different type of support, because even though I feel like I make music and talk about subjects that people need, I feel like it adds a little balance to what we get. And the stories that, I might not be rapping about stuff that you want to hear about all the time, but it ain't about that. It's my truth. You know what I mean? It's I feel like a lot of times as artists, we get pressured in trying to convey the stories of people from where we're from. And I do that, but it's just like, yo, I got a unique story. You know what I mean? It's only one me. So I got to tell my truth. And my truth don't always align with everybody else's. So, I mean, it's like you said, you don't know too many dudes who had that experience with Japan. Like I turned 21 in Japan. When I was a kid, I didn't even think I was going to live to see 21. You know what I'm saying? Which is a common thought from where I'm from. So the fact that I turned 21, but did it in a foreign country, having this crazy experience, that's my truth. So I got to speak to that. And so living long enough to see how it's affecting people and inspiring people, and then finding different ways to connect to people in this book. This book is something else, man. Like, yeah, it's been super dope,
Cool. So where can we get the book?
And find you.
Yes.
Yeah, if I connect with you.
Yeah, for sure. So the book is available on our company's website, subartandmusic.com. You can go to the store, subartandmusic.com/store, and the book is available there, along with merch, all types of merch, from CDs to vinyl records to T-shirts, dad hats, all types of stuff. To find me as a solo artist, you can go to iamsubstantial.com, or my Bandcamp page, substantial.bandcamp.com, which also has a store built in where the book is available. The book's also available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble as well. But the businessman that I am, give everybody game. You can buy it from there and pay $7 more, and then our company sees way less. Or you can buy it directly from us, and our company sees way more, and you pay $7 less. How's that math? Isn't that crazy? But that's the game, right? Like that's the game. You go through these bigger companies, you're gonna pay more for it, and we're gonna see less money. Or you can buy it directly from us. You pay less, and we see more. So I mean, I'm not gonna tell y'all how to spend your money. I'm just letting you know what happens when you spend your money and where you spend it.
You giving them free game.
Yeah, that's it. Hey man, look, that's the best kind of game.
Absolutely, man. We want to thank you for sharing your story. I do want to close some of you, since you are hip hop head. We gotta go there. So we and we gonna close on this. Give us your top 5.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. And look, I'm gonna say this before I say it. I make no apologies.
No apologies.
Okay. Apologies. So my top 5 consists of so Nas, Black Thought, Redman, Andre 3000, and then see the fifth changes sometimes. I'm gonna put him back in here because he's one of my original inspirations. But Common was one of my earliest, one of the most influential people, like in terms of my writing early on. So like I got to give my man his flowers. So Common, I give it to him.
Covered almost covered all the United States.
Oh yeah, man, I spread them out. Hey, listen, man, I got a couple West Coast dudes who's in my top 10 for sure. Because there's no shortage of spitters, like crazy spitters on the West Coast. But like, so yeah, man, that's for another show though. We'll be here all night.
I got the only one that probably surprised me is Redman. I don't hear Redman too often.
Yeah.
But Black Thought, I feel like is the most overlooked.
Yeah.
I would say they both are. I would say they both are some of the most overlooked guys in history. Them too.
Yo, my list is, if you look at my list, it's based on consistency, right? Like, cause and the only reason why some of the younger guys in there, it has nothing to do with them being young. Well, age a little bit more so, cause just to give a few more years, cause Kendrick ain't that far from my top 5, mainly because consistency. Like from his first joint to now, like how many classics has he given you, right? I feel like with Redman gets overlooked so much, but how many times has Redman made a guest appearance and destroyed it? How many times has Redman given you an album and it didn't really fall short of your expectations? It was Redman doing what Redman does. So if you're a fan of Redman, it ain't too many albums from Redman that you can be like, oh man, he losing a step. Like Redman will get on the track nowadays and still
sharp.
Yeah, he's still sharp.
Still sharp.
These dudes pushing almost 50, still sharp, man. So, and I feel the same way about Black Thought. You'd be hard pressed to find, Thought said, come on, bro. Thought said, he said, yo, I heard, what is it? He said, oh my God, I heard murder ran this vast deserted land back when Burning Man was blacks in Birmingham.
Yeah. I mean, my
that's a different kind of pen.
My intro to Black Thought was on one of my favorite albums of all time, Capital Punishment.
Yeah.
So that verse, and I think that's the only time that I feel like he was ever challenged was on the track with Pun. But that track is just super lyrical. I mean, one of the most lyrical songs of all time of hip hop history.
Yeah. So. And all of my top 5 are some of the most feared rappers to ever do it, right? Bama's are scared of Black Thought, dog. Like, people scared of Thought. I watched Thought do 10 minutes of freestyle before the whole band show up. You know what I'm saying? At a Root show. They weren't even all there yet, and he just freestyled for 10 minutes. And that joint was better than some dude's whole albums, right? Redman is another one, man. Like, Red has got on so many tracks and like bodied it, right? And got on that BET Cypher joint at like 40 plus years old and had everybody Googling him like, who the hell is this dude? You know what I mean? Like, And then and Andre, come on, bro. Like when has oh my God, Andre, man. Like the only reason why Andre don't come up more in people top fives because he doesn't have a lot of solo work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But his verses that he's dropped on people's joints, come on, dog. Like again, his verses on other people's albums have been the highlight of their entire album.
Yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
true. That's true.
Common took on the whole coast.
Took on a whole coast. Come on, dog. That dude said, he's every time you come out, Joe, I'ma talk about you. Till you let that in you, walk about you. Come on, dog. Hardest diss track ever made. Him and Nas got two of the hardest comeback tracks ever made, man, in rap. So
I think that's one of the best top five that I think it's one of the most versatile and one of the best top fives I've ever heard.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that because I be damn near in fights talking to people about
I'm sure.
Like how Biggie not in that joint happening. I love Big, I love Jay. You know what I mean? There's a whole lot of dudes that always end up in the top five who aren't in mine, and it really doesn't have because I mean with Big, you know, Big could easily go in there because who accomplished more in the span of time than Big did? 3 years, dog. That's really, I mean, it's kind of like 4, but if you look at when his album dropped to when he died, and you think about how big is, right? Like that's 3 years.
We didn't even get the most out of him.
So. Right. And so, and you know, so I mean, he could easily go in, and he definitely in my top 10. And I know that sounds like blasphemy to some people, but trust, listen, I spit Biggie verses with the best of them, so I love Big. But those dudes that I just listed. I mean, man, listen, I'll make a case for any of them dudes 7 days a week, you know?
Man. So, man, once again, thank you for closing us out with that top five. I had to do it because I know you was going to give us a solid one.
I appreciate it, man.
I know you were. So, once again, we want to thank you for coming and joining us today. Thank you all for listening. This is Unapologetically Black Male, where we are surviving the stigma, standards, and systems. Where we just want to take the time out to highlight different African Americans and share their story of how they got to where they are and their version of success for them. So once again, thank you for co-host EJ. Thank you for our sponsor J Pope and Associates. And once again, make sure you connect with us on all social media. You can follow us on our J Pope and Associate page and also on Instagram. Look forward to seeing you next week. And thank you again. Have a great day.